Erbie Bowser entered this world without warning of the violence that would define his exit. Born around 1969, he grew into a physically imposing figure, 6 feet 7 inches tall and 355 pounds. His stature served him first on the football field as a defensive tackle for Texas Christian University from 1987 to 1989. Then as a performer with the Dallas Mavericks ManiAACs dance troupe from 2002 to 2009. For nearly a decade, he also worked as a special education teacher in Mesquite, Texas, resigning in 2010 on good terms, according to records. But beneath this facade of normalcy, a dangerous pattern was forming. Domestic violence defined Bowser's private life. In 2011, his estranged wife Zina sought a protective order after he threatened her with a pocket knife, stating, "Call the police and I will execute your kids." When she tried to leave, he warned, "I will bury you." A Dallas judge documented that family violence has occurred and is likely to occur in the future, barring him from coming within 200 yards of Zina or her children. He later violated that order, resulting in arrest. Despite this documented history, the system couldn't prevent what came next. On August 7, 2013, around 10:30 p.m., Bowser arrived at the Dallas home of his live-in girlfriend, 43-year-old Toya Smith. He shot and killed Toya and her 17-year-old daughter, Tasmia Allen. Toya's 14-year-old son, Storm Malone, and a 17-year-old family friend, Dasmin Mitchell, were wounded. Toya's mother, Lurlian Smith, arrived to find a bloodbath. She later stated she'd warned her daughter for years about Bowser's controlling nature, blaming that control for her death. 15 minutes later, Bowser drove 7 miles to his estranged wife, Zina Bowser's home in DeSoto. He broke down the back door and detonated a military-grade grenade, a weapon from his past as an Army veteran. While the explosion injured no one, it signaled the horror to come. He then fatally shot 47-year-old Zina and her 28-year-old daughter, Neima Williams. Zina's 2 sons, aged 11 and 13, were also shot but survived. The attack only stopped when Bowser ran out of ammunition. One son managed to call 911 while hiding his toddler brother under a pile of coats. Neima's final 911 call captured her begging for her life, repeatedly naming her attacker, Erbie Bowser. Police found Bowser pretending to be a victim at the scene, but Zina's surviving son identified him as the gunman. In his car, authorities discovered ammunition, gun accessories, and the grenade pin, evidence of premeditation.
Police and the ATF are investigating 2 shootings that left 4 dead.
One man arrested after all of the bloodshed started in southwest Dallas last night. Alcohol, tobacco, firearms, and explosives. Federal agents investigating a murder?
Exactly. We still haven't been able to tie in that piece of it, but what we can tell you is that the suspect in this case, Erbie Bowser, was a Army Ranger. At least that's what we're being told by the victim's family. At least one of the victim's family tells me that he does have military experience. So the family of one of the victims, 43-year-old Toya Smith, have been pointing the finger at Erbie Bowser all along. They say that he is her boyfriend. We have a mugshot of him from 2011 that you just saw. He was arrested last night in DeSoto at that second scene. He has not been formally charged. Of course, we'll have more on that coming up a little bit later. But Toya's family, you know, they say he was very possessive, and so they weren't shocked when they found out what happened to her and her 17-year-old daughter. They discovered both of them dead inside their southwest Dallas home and the 7100 block of Long Canyon Trail around 10:30 last night. They say that Bowser also shot Toya's son, Storm Malone, and Tamia's best friend, who's 17. She was in the home. The two are...
My other grandbaby knocked on the window, and we could hear somebody like gasping for breath in there. And he said, "Granny, they listening to headphones." And I said, "No, that's not a headphone."
Yeah, listen up. Let's take another look at Erbie Bowser. In fact, Lurleen Smith says that she tried to get her daughter to break up with him for years, and We've learned more about him. He's a former teacher, a former Maverick ManiAAC dancer. In fact, we have video from 2002 of him dancing on that team. He also has a criminal record dating back to the late 80s. Now, Toya's family also told us that he has an ex-wife in DeSoto. That is also where he was arrested and the scene of a second shooting very similar to the one that happened here in Southwest Dallas. In fact,
you know, and speaking of similarities, as you mentioned, LaToya, the family and the friends of the victim here saying the same thing pretty much, that they did have a volatile relationship. How long that relationship lasted and when they broke up, at this point we're still trying to gather that information, but they're pretty much saying the same thing here at this house in DeSoto, the 100 block of Galleria Drive, where a number of officers, investigators on the scene, including the ATF and FBI. Now, Dallas police do say that about 15 minutes after the Dallas shootings, they were dispatched here, and when they got here, officers found the 4 gunshot victims, 2 of whom were dead here at the scene. No information on their ages or their identities. I spoke with some of the neighbors who say that around 10:45, they heard what they describe as a very loud boom or an explosion. And
just playing basketball with my husband and my son in the backyard 2 days ago. So, you know, they were regulars and coming over after school, games. They were neighborhood kids. So just to know that this happened to them, it just hurts. I just feel for them.
And we mentioned that loud explosion, and that does pretty much explain why the ATF would be here investigating. Now, again, the neighbors here and the family members who I spoke with do say that Bowser was the either ex-boyfriend of the victim here. She lived here with her 14-year-old son, as well as her 8-year-old son. Now, her adult daughter also had a 3-year-old boy. She was here last night, spending the night, and she would have to...
During interrogation, he lapsed into unresponsive states, complicating early investigations. He was charged with 3 counts of capital murder and 2 counts of aggravated assault, with bail set at $6.5 million. The 2014 trial revealed disturbing new dimensions to his crimes. Prosecutors presented evidence that Bowser had hidden cameras in Toya Smith's home, secretly recording her teenage daughter in the shower and bedroom. Though defense attorneys argued this was unduly prejudicial, the judge allowed the videos as evidence of predatory behavior preceding the murders. The same jury that convicted him of capital murder now faced the decision of whether to sentence him to death.
Unanimously find the defendant guilty of capital murder as charged in the indictment.
Yes, ma'am.
That is the unanimous verdict of the jury.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Yes. Juror number 4.
A former Dallas Mavericks entertainer found guilty. Now, the jury has to figure out just what kind of sentence he should get for that verdict. Robbie Owens has been following the Erbie Bowser trial since the beginning.
Well, Doug, relatives are relieved, but told me today that they didn't want to make any public comments until after Bowser is sentenced. Toward that end, prosecutors have already wrapped up their case to send him to death row.
And is your verdict as follows? We, the jury, unanimously find the defendant guilty of capital murder as charged in the indictment.
After days of emotional testimony,
I was in shock. Didn't remember our address, his name. All I could really think about was, was I gonna die or not?
And often gruesome, graphic evidence from 2 separate crime scenes. The verdict, when it came, was greeted with calm and complete silence.
That is the unanimous verdict of the jury.
Yes, ma'am.
Jurors decided that Erbie Bowser was not in the midst of a military delusion when he shot and killed his live-in girlfriend, Toya Smith, and her 17-year-old daughter, Tasmia Allen. Nor was he insane when he shot his estranged wife, Zina Bowser, and murdered her adult daughter, Neima Williams, while she begged for her life.
Please, no. I'm going to go with you, please. Oh, my God. Hello? Please, no. Oh, my God.
But the process of making Bowser pay would still be steeped in pain. Adding what must feel like acid to a still aching wound, prosecutors say Bowser hid cameras in Smith's home to secretly record her teenage daughter in the shower and in her bedroom. Defense attorneys fought to keep jurors from seeing the videos, calling them unduly prejudicial.
His defense team argued he was legally insane during the attacks, pointing to his inconsistent behavior during police interviews. they obtained his VA medical records, suggesting potential mental health complications from military service. Prosecutors countered with the calculated nature of his actions. The two locations, the grenade, the hidden cameras, and his documented history of threats. The jury rejected the insanity defense, finding him legally responsible for the 4 murders. Erbie Bowser received multiple death sentences. His execution date remains pending as of 2025. The case left a trail of devastated families and unanswered questions about systemic failures in preventing domestic violence. Zina Bowser, a nurse practitioner remembered for touching many lives, Toya Smith, and their daughters became symbols of a tragedy that began with documented threats and ended in unimaginable violence. 4 lives ended, 4 children wounded, a community shattered by 15 minutes of vengeance. The story of Erbie Bowser forces us to confront how rage, weapon access, and missed interventions can converge with catastrophic results.